Welcome to the Wed Pro Podcast, the show for wedding professionals and business owners.
Each month, we bring you top industry experts, business chat, and hints and tips to grow your business.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Roxy.
Welcome to the Wed Pro Podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Wed Pro Podcast, and we are on episode number 23.
Hi guys. Hi. How are you, Roxy? How are you doing?
I'm absolutely fantastic because today's Friday.
Yeah, for those listening, we obviously record our podcast a few days early. This will be going out on Tuesday. Happy Tuesday in advance. But yes,
Tuesday, yes. The sun is shining, and yeah, I'm just in an overall happy mood. How about you?
Yeah, good. I kind of get this energy from the sun. I don't know if you do, but I kind of feel when the sun's out, I get energized and I'm actually at my most productive.
Yes.
So yeah, I actually really enjoy the summer. I would live abroad if I could afford to. I would do that travel Instagram live. You kind of
Me
too. What have you been up to? What have you been up to since last episode?
So since last episode, I have done quite a lot actually. I feel like I've not stopped. So for those of you that don't know, I am a mum of teenage boys and we live in a village, so I am now taxi mum. So that's the first thing. I'm literally driving children everywhere, fed up of it already. Also had your doggy over for a sleepover since our last podcast.
We've got some good news for everybody listening, haven't we? What has come about from you babysitting my dog?
I'm getting a dog. Yay! So I wanted a dog for a long time. I've been pestering the husband for like all my life, forever. And then little lovely Leo came and had a sleepover, and the husband was like besotted, loved him, and he's been looking at dogs on all sorts of kind of puppy websites, rehoming websites. So we're going to get a dog. I don't know when, but watch this space.
I'm so excited and so happy that our dogs can be like little pals. It'll be like me and you, our two little girls that are like little mini kids, and then our two little puppies. But that's exciting. So those of you, I did say I would give you a Harry Potter update. We went to Harry Potter Studios last week. Actually on Harry Potter Day, I did know this. It was great. It was so good. If you've not been before and you're kind of into that sort of stuff, you're into Harry Potter or your children are into Harry Potter, I would definitely recommend it. I am a chronic overthinker, so I was like thinking about busyness. We were talking about Bank Holiday Day, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You also have to book a slot, and the slot that we got was kind of 3-ish, 2:30, 3. So I was kind of thinking, like bang on dinner time and all of that sort of stuff. But didn't need to worry. It was fantastic. The staff there are amazing. I've never received customer service like it. And Roxy will know, aren't I a stickler for good customer service?
Oh my goodness, yes you are. I was just going to say, let's talk about how amazing they were for you, because I was just like, I'm so pleased, because you go to some place and you just think, how is this even running sometimes?
Yeah, we went in and my son's autistic spectrum. Those kind of long-time listeners may know, those people in our community may know, so we've got some additional needs. So going to a place that's massively busy with lots and lots of people there can be a little bit overwhelming. Daughter, Harry Potter, absolute lives, breathes, loves Harry Potter. So this was something that we wanted to do for her and for us. Oliver's aware of Harry Potter, likes Harry Potter to a degree, but isn't kind of hardcore fan at all. And yeah, they above and beyond, went absolutely above and beyond just to make sure. They actually gave us kind of a leaflet. They thought all about kind of anybody with kind of additional needs or anybody with kind of hidden disabilities or anything like that. I just mentioned it as I kind of went in and said, look, if we need, I've been before and there's some interactive elements and there's some, don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it can get a little bit busy. There's some interactive elements, there's things that move, there's stuff like that, noises, etc. And I just said to them at the beginning, I said, do you have anywhere that we can kind of, if things are getting a little bit much, that we can kind of go out of? And my word. They were like, oh, no problem, we'll walk you actually in so you don't have to queue up. So they kind of took us straight to the front, and they kind of said anywhere along the way, there's staff in every room, so don't worry about it. So we had one kind of moment where the doors kind of opened and you went in, and there was some kind of interactive thing that he just was a little bit like overwhelmed by, and he needs a few more minutes to get used to what's coming. So I kind of left with him, and we went and found this room. They have like a sensory room there, so anybody that doesn't know and has children that may have some sensory issues, 2 seconds of being in this room, he was a different child. And that just made, for me, my family, my daughter, my partner, the day run so much easier that he had that space. 2 minutes, and I'm not saying that would, every child is different. That's all he took to kind of feel better, collect his thoughts, and be able to come back out. And it, you know, anybody that knows that, okay, anybody that has additional needs or might be on autistic spectrum or anything like that, you know, the overwhelm can look like a lot of different things. It can sometimes look like meltdowns or anything like that. We hadn't quite got to that stage. We've got a good relationship that he was able to say, look, Mum, I need some space on that moment that happened. So we were able to go out. This room had like a hooded chair. They thought of everything. It got like a hooded chair so that you could sit and feel safe. It got like sensory lights, etc. And then we were able to come out and enjoy the rest of the day. And I think just him knowing that was there, he used it for everybody, and also used it for me. Then at the end, we had a really good day. At the end, the queue was insane, and I kind of just went and said, "Oh, look, would you mind? You know, this queue's a little bit overwhelming. Would you mind?" They were like, "No problem whatsoever." And then the guy at customer services, Jamie, amazing. He obviously won't be listening.
Shout out to Jamie.
Shout out to Jamie. He kind of wanted to make sure. He's like, oh, did you miss anything? And we were like, no, we don't think so. Turns out we did. So then he was giving us like stamped passports and all sorts. It was just, and telling us lots of facts. And if you go, there's people stationed in every room. So you can go and ask them for a secret. So you can go and ask like and say, oh, tell me a secret. My kids loved that. It was great. And this is the 3rd time I've been. It was amazing.
I'm so jealous.
It was but you're going to go, aren't you?
Oh, I'm definitely going to go. I am one of them people that's like, yeah, I'm going to book this. And then like 3 weeks later, I've still not frigging booked it.
You need to book it because it's months and months and months in advance.
Yeah. I mean, like, Grace's birthday is in November, so I'll probably get round to it by about then anyway, to be fair. But when you told me how amazing they've been, it literally warmed my heart. I was like, I'm so happy because I've got a child with additional needs too. And I know what it can be like when you're juggling like multiple children and just juggling all those things. That's so nice that they've thought of that and were like able to help you. Amazing.
I know.
Well done, Harry Potter world.
Yeah, I wish more posters would be like that, really.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's good. That was a definite positive. What I will say, Roxy, is book early. So you're thinking, oh, Grace's birthday is in November. You want to book it now if you're going in November. Like it books way far in advance. And they're constantly changing it. So if anyone's been before, they're constantly adding things. This is the 3rd time I've been. Still new stuff to look at, and they told us like what's coming. And they're actually geeking. I'm geeking out now. I don't know how much of a Harry Potter.
I can tell.
They were filming Fantastic Beasts behind us, like in the studio behind. So that's cool. So yeah, that's a catch up. So today we are, those of you that will know, obviously SEO. We're revisiting this topic, aren't we? Because let's be honest, it's something for us. Can be a little bit of a difficult subject, and for kind of most wedding professionals, we hear this quite a lot, don't we? That it's something that no matter what level you're at, it's something that you constantly need to revisit. So we've talked about SEO a couple of times before, but it's always good to kind of always more knowledge to learn, isn't there? And there's always more stuff that you can do. We've got a guest with us today. We've got Jay from J&A Wedding Photography, also wedding photographer and SEO. What I was going to say, SEO
extraordinaire.
There we go. I like that one. SEO expert. That's going to kind of break it down as to how we can reach more couples, because that's what we want to do, basically, don't we? that is what we want to do. We want to reach more of our ideal couples in the kind of ways, and I think SEO can really do this, and Jay, you can kind of come in and make sense of this topic for us, where we don't have to constantly keep at it. And I think, you know, when we've got good SEO foundations and then we build on those kind of over time, obviously we need to revisit them every now and then, it's a little bit more long game, isn't it? So yeah,
welcome Jay.
Welcome Jay.
Hi.
Hey, so tell us a little bit, you've obviously got a wedding industry background, tell us a little bit how long you've been in the wedding industry for, what kind of couples you serve, and how you got into doing what you do now, which is kind of SEO for wedding professionals, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. I've been in and around the wedding industry for the best part of a decade. I'm a wedding photographer, but more specifically, I'm a documentary wedding photographer, which is sort of niche down within wedding photography.
I love that. I love actually that documentary style, not so kind of formal. I really like those candid kind of story moments.
Same.
It's kind of shooting weddings from the inside out.
Yes.
I like that. That's nice.
Oh, strapline and a half right there.
How I got into SEO was basically sort of as all photographers do, I'd imagine. Many wedding vendors as well. You end up sort of wearing many hats as a business owner. One of which is you tend to sort of end up building your own websites. You tend to end up working on your own marketing.
Yeah.
You know, your customer service department and everything, and sales force all rolled into one.
Lots of hats.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I've been building websites for a lot longer than I've been shooting weddings, and I like to know everything that there is to know about something. So I get a bit sort of focused on things.
Yeah. I think that's like, we all have kind of things, don't we? Like our strengths definitely with kind of with social media.
Yeah.
And when we've been chatting to you before, I think similarly to kind of us, like, you get noticed obviously as a wedding photographer, but actually also you're getting all those questions from wedding suppliers as to like how are you getting kind of all this traffic, and how are you, for us it was, how come you've come from nothing and you've got like 10,000 followers in like 12 months, and people were asking us that, and it came quite naturally to us, isn't it, what to say? Like, so you saying nerd, we hear that because we're like, yeah,
we are
social media nerds.
We are fully fledged social media geeks, and I love it. I can see myself when I talk about it. I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited about this. And people must look at me and think, what the heck? I don't care.
Yeah. No, I'm very similar when it comes to sort of web design and SEO. Like, so obviously, you know, being a photographer, you want to get your services found.
Yeah.
So I sort of went down like the whole rabbit hole of, well, how do I do that? And I've sort of undergone training with arguably one of the best SEO experts around, basically, and learned as much as I could in as a short time as I could, and then I began sort of implementing it for myself. But yeah, no, you get me on the topic of SEO, and it's sort of, I nerd out a bit. So often I have my partner and other half who usually sort of translates things from nerd to people speak for me. You know, sort of make me a bit more sort of palatable.
I think though, actually, a lot of wedding professionals, and if I even think back to me when I started the bridal shop, I did understand that SEO was something that I needed to do. And I don't think actually, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I was too bad at it when I first started it. I read a book, I did all the right things, I went out, and I'm going back kind of 12, 13 years now, and there wasn't so much online education. So I went and got a book, I submitted my website to somebody for somebody to kind of crawl and tell me what to kind of focus on and to do. And as well, I had a really good niche. So the bridal shop was serving a particular market, and we were there was no other bridal shops in the Midlands. We were kind of East Midlands. at least the Midlands doing what we were doing. So we were kind of naturally ranking for things that people might be searching for without too much effort from my side.
Yeah.
And then when we got some press, that kind of bumped it up.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got lazy with it, because SEO is something, as kind of everybody kind of knows, or if you don't know, it's something that kind of we need to keep at, isn't it? We need to keep at.
It's a constant thing. Like you would have got a lot of traffic from the press, because obviously you get what's known as backlinks, which are sort of they're authoritative links back to your website. So like what that does is it basically just sort of says to Google, you know, you're an authority on this particular subject.
Yeah.
So that really sort of helps give you a boost.
Yeah.
You're right. It is about sort of an ongoing strategy as well. But there is a lot of things that you can do to sort of get those basic foundations in place.
And this is it. And this is, you know, with SEO, once the kind of those foundations are in place, and it doesn't take that long for you to start to see a difference, is it, in terms of when you really put the work in?
Yeah, no, it can be fairly quick. I mean, for example, it depends on how sort of competitive the market is. Obviously, you know, the wedding industry is fairly competitive as it is, but if you're sort of niche down within that, you're sort of the keywords that you rank for might not necessarily be sort of
so fast
competitive. You might be able to get sort of like sort of, as they call it, low hanging fruit. But there are some, like for example, like with our wedding business, wedding photography business, we rank #1 for wedding photography in our particular area. Now, I managed to do that without really sort of, you know, doing too much intensive work. But having sort of people sort of search for that, there wasn't too many people searching for people in our particular town, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas, so that is, there's not sort of too much competition in that sense. Whereas
and that's what maybe kind of our first tip can be for people, like really niche down, so not just kind of you're a wedding photographer. You know, when you introduced yourself, you said you're like a documentary style wedding photographer. And then when you also think about that a little bit more, you're also a documentary wedding photographer that wants to serve a couple in a particular area. Maybe you're a wedding photographer that wants to travel, or maybe you're a wedding photographer that wants to only shoot boho style weddings, or sustainable weddings. Whatever.
One of the best tips that I could give people in terms of sort of like what you want to be found by is sort of, what would you look for if you was looking for you?
I'm so glad you said this.
Like literally, like what would you put into Google
to
find what it is that you do?
Yeah, and you know, just to kind of touch on what you kind of said a minute ago, kind of just being I'm a wedding photographer that wants to shoot people that are getting married. Well, there's going to be a ton of competition for websites that say wedding photographer, wedding, couples, married, those sorts of things. So really kind of like niche that down as to what is the type of couple you serve. And we talk about ideal client and really understanding your ideal client. But I guess it is about that, isn't it? Isn't it really? Knowing what your ideal client is searching for.
Yeah. It's sort of, it's knowing what they're searching for. It's knowing what their interests are. You know, you can cast quite a wider net. It's like, I know you guys, obviously you do content blog, and with that you do blog posts and things like that. That's like casting a wider net, because it's sort of, you know, other things that your couples may potentially be interested in or be potentially searching for. So, you know, things like that are hugely beneficial.
Yeah, we're big on the blogging, aren't we, Roxy? So we blog obviously for our website as well, and then we obviously provide a blogging service for wedding professionals, because we just know that people really struggle to find the time to write blogs. But actually knowing a little bit about SEO, I don't know too much about SEO, we know that it's important.
Very important.
Not just for kind of getting those keywords in or those phrases, but also, am I right in thinking, Jay, that it's better to be updating your website regularly?
Yeah, content is king as far as Google.
Oh, love that.
So, the sort of not necessarily sort of content for the sake of content, but content with purpose. So if, say for example, if you are blogging, if you're a wedding photographer, there's no point talking about, I don't know, wedding shoes, for example. Like, it's not sort of relevant to what you do. But if you sort of, I don't know, if you're looking at sort of, top places to go out for a meal for an engagement, or
or maybe like where's the most beautiful weddings for photos in the area.
Yeah, where's the best venues? Do top 10 venues in your area, or things like that. It can be really beneficial.
When we say it's important to kind of be regularly updating your website for Google, why is that?
Basically, Google crawls your website, which basically means it scans and analyzes it, and it looks for fresh content, but it also looks for content that's relevant. So people who generally rank higher are people who Google considers an authority on their particular subject. So they look at, is your site trustworthy? Is it established? Are you creating fresh content such as blogs? Are you updating pictures? It just shows that you're active and you're actively engaged with your audience as well.
Okay. Oh, this is good to know, because actually
I'm finding this all very helpful. You may know that you may not know. I know less about SEO and things like that than Katie. So Katie ran the bridal shop, whereas I'm probably only like 3 years into SEO and learning things. So if I'm quiet, it's because I'm taking notes and I'm learning. but I did know that every time you update content on your website that they'll crawl it?
Basically, it's periodic. There isn't really sort of like a time frame.
Okay.
You can submit new content to Google. You can use what's called Search Console, which is where once you've sort of put your SEO foundations in, you can basically submit something that's called your sitemap. And your sitemap is basically just sort of the blueprint of everything that's on your website, and it tells Google what this is here, this is there, And
most website builders, a lot of people in the wedding industry will use things like WordPress or Squarespace and that sort of stuff. Most of them, Wix, etc., most of them have an element where you can submit your sitemap to Google. Don't know. So it's not, if you sat there thinking, oh my goodness, how do I do this? Just go to kind of the back end of your website, go to like where it will say something like Google Analytics or something like, or SEO tools or something like that. And it will be there for you to submit your sitemap to Google. I know this because I did this recently.
Sometimes it's tucked away in places like, there'll be like a marketing tab or.
When we changed over, we obviously rebranded. So we rebranded and we were scared to do it, and we were right to be scared, because it's basically like going from the Wedding Industry Supplier Network and Google knowing everything about the Wedding Industry Supplier Network to being a totally new business name and effectively starting from scratch a little bit. And we're definitely working our way through getting back where we need to be in terms of being known as the Wedding Business Hub now. When we were kind of changing the website over, and we still needed our old website to work right up until the minute our new one kind of went live. And it is a process. We're back down. We're working our way up. So these tips are really tough. What's really great to know, Jay, and I think this is something that can stick in mind for everybody. When you're saying, oh yeah, Google wants to know that you're authoritative and that you take your website seriously, that's just like a breakdown of algorithms across the board, isn't it? So kind of when you're looking at social content as well, that's what they're looking for. So if we can kind of take that attitude, and a lot of people maybe find the social media element a little bit easier because it's something that they are constantly updating, maybe more than their website, and take that kind of attitude that Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and any of these platforms want you to be engaged with your audience. They want you to be creating new content. It's the same on your website. So I think that's really great that you kind of made that point.
Yeah, well, it's speaking of social media is what sort of Google calls social proof as well.
Mhm.
So if you're making regular sort of updates to your social media, that also sort of, that is beneficial as well. That also helps.
Oh,
And
that's really great.
one big tip that I would give towards people who are sort of more geared towards social media rather than blogging and stuff like that is make sure that your sort of details are consistent. So your name, address, phone number,
Mhm.
email address. Make sure, spaces are in exactly the same places, everything's formatted the same. Because then as Google crawls the entire internet, it's not just your website. Obviously, they look at things like social media as well. And that way Google can basically sort of link, a list in places A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it all sort of funnels in and it all helps.
I think something that's quite common, and maybe not a lot of people know this one, is that people will say, "Oh, I rank for my business name in my area," and I actually find you're looking at we're on video and Jay's like, "Oh my goodness," because actually that just happened, doesn't it? That people will say, "Well, maybe I'm called the Flower Shack," and I'll Google the Flower Shack at home, and I come up top. Tell me what's wrong with that, Jay.
Right. Well, the main issue with that is how many people are going to be specifically searching for your business name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
you want to
They're
get people that don't know
Yeah,
your business. Maybe if they do know your business name, they're probably already at least checking you out anyway, right?
yeah. So there's sort of the best way to think of like, so I mean, this sort of like leads into keywords and keyword research. Um, you need to sort of really sort of think of the ways that people would be searching for what you do, what you sell, the service you provide, your product, whatever it is that you actually sort of, put forward to the public. It's really like it's really simple to sort of rank for your own actual specific business name. You might find as well that there's some people out there that might not even rank for their own actual business name. But you can put some foundations in place. One of the sort of easiest things to do is Google My Business profile. You can literally just go onto Google, type in Google My Business, and you can claim your listing from search. They send you a little postcard to verify. There's a whole bunch of things on there, like you can fill out sort of, say for example, if you have, like we have a photography studio, you can submit photos of the inside, the outside, all the different services you provide, link back to your website, things like that. So even if you don't particularly have a website, that's something that you can do, but it's also something that you really should do if you do have a website.
And that's a free service as well, isn't it? Like literally, like as you were saying, Jay, just if any of you haven't got a Google My Business profile, go and check it out. It's a free service, and like you say, it's a must do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'd say without a doubt it's definitely in the top 10 things to do.
So with keywords, if you kind of go back to keywords, like quite often people will know, okay, right, heard this term keywords a few times. You broke it down really nicely there, like what is it you do, what is it you sell, who do you serve, where do we put these keywords in? Put them in naturally into our site.
There's sort of several places. Sort of as you're sort of building your website, obviously you're writing your copy, which is sort of the text on your website. Generally speaking, you want if you sort of research keywords and you know really what you want to rank for, then your main sort of keyword, your main goal, if you like. There's sort of different hierarchies of text. So you've got paragraph text and you've got your sort of H1 through 4 headings. This could be a little bit of jargon, but basically sort of your H1 heading, and the first one on your main page basically wants to contain what it is that you want to be found for. You also want to include what you want to be found for in your opening paragraph too.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing to bear in mind is don't speak like a robot. Don't write like you're trying to sort of just impress Google. Like,
I was just going to say, will you get kind of not, you know, will they almost punish you for being like, I'm a wedding photographer, I love wedding photography, because like, and shoving it like.
And I do weddings here and here,
Yeah.
and here and here and here. Yeah, I see that a lot.
It's good to know about those kind of headings.
H1 titles are rather important, and then obviously, you know, it sort of works as a hierarchy. So H1 is your most important, H2 secondary, H3, and so on. Usually you have sort of like styling options as well, because obviously when you're building a website, H1, if you type whatever you want in that, it's usually massive. But you can usually change sizing and stuff like that, so it's a bit more visually
It's
pleasing.
good to know, especially we're quite a creative industry. Lots of us will have built our own websites, or maybe even when we pass over our website and we get to a point where we're like, okay, I want somebody to build our website. I know that's what you do, Jay, you build websites for the wedding industry. But it's good to have a little eye over it, isn't it? And to kind of know what you're looking for. I know whenever I hire somebody, I want to know at least a base knowledge that I kind of know, okay, that feels right. So kind of with the H1, H2, H3, and we've had a chat separately about this, haven't we? I'm very like, okay, that looks pretty, and I'll put things because it looks pretty and visual, and it kind of suits my brand, rather than thinking about, actually, it needs to be a H2 because there's no keywords in there, or that's what Google's going to look at as to what I do, and it's not what I do.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I often find, because obviously when I get sort of people get our service for SEO and whatnot, but obviously I also dabble in, well, more than dabble, in web design.
Little dabble.
Just a little play, you know what I mean? But yeah, you often find that people make these sort of choices more stylistically than anything, which, you know, that is important, because at the end of the day, like I said, you don't want to write for Google like you're speaking to a robot. You want to speak write how you actually speak. I mean, that works in many ways, in the fact that obviously, if you write as you speak, when people actually come to meet you for your goods and or services, they don't get somebody completely different. You know, they actually get you. But it's all about sort of user experience as well. So is your website nice looking? You know, is it easy to find what they need to find? But there's lots of ways of sort of integrating the more sort of technical aspects of SEO to make it look a bit more visually pleasing and actually work with the design rather than against.
This is I've got a good question. I think it's good. For those of people who are sitting and creating their websites at home and doing it for their business, themselves, where would you say they design their site for? Would you say they should design it for mobile and put up the mobile template, or design it for desktop and then kind of optimize it for mobile afterwards?
Okay. At the moment, obviously, well, I don't know if you sort of read the report, but the Bride Book wedding report says that 92% of couples are currently using their mobile devices to find their suppliers. So that's a massive disproportionate amount of people on mobile devices. So if you was to develop your website primarily with desktop in mind, you'd be designing for like what, that 8%? You know, so it's very much worthwhile sort of designing for mobile usability, and always having sort of mobile in mind. A lot of different web platforms nowadays, you know, from Squarespace through to WordPress and Wix, usually have a little toggle that you can use. So you can sort of zip between sort of desktop and mobile. A lot of them also, you know, they optimize and restructure things.
They do,
for
They don't do it fantastic.
No, they do not do it fantastically, and also they hide a lot of stuff. So make sure you go and have a look in that like hidden elements tab.
Yeah, no.
That might be good to know for people to kind of think at home. I know quite often as suppliers we're working from laptops, desktops, because we might be sending invoices, we might be whatever it is, kind of tinkering with websites and that sort of stuff, and it's easier for us to do from a desktop or from a laptop or from whatever than it is mobile. Like it's much easier, it's bigger, we can see it, sending invoices. I know I'm getting to the point in my business where honestly I need 2 desktops. I bet you have more, Jay.
We've got at least sort of 2 laptops, a couple of actual external screens as well.
Yeah, where like it's like okay,
yeah, multi-screening it up.
But actually, in your personal life, if you think in your personal life when the laptop's away, or you want to quickly Google something or search for where you want to eat tonight, or
you're whipping that mobile out, aren't you?
Yeah, that's where it is, or the iPad or anything like that. If we optimize for mobile, does that mean iPad as well?
Yeah, it can do. Like I said, most sort of web providers they sort of optimize automatically between different formats. Not each provider is equal, you know.
How annoying is that though? They don't have to make it easy for us, do they?
No, like some do it seamlessly, and then others you're like, oh my god,
what is that?
Why?
So would you say, even though it's a bit more of a pain and it's a little bit smaller to work on, you should build the site on the mobile part?
Yeah, like I said, you can usually sort of toggle between the two. So generally speaking, if you have sort of mobile in mind, Google, like I said, they're prioritizing mobile first as more people are doing more stuff on the go.
I suppose as well, this again goes back to your ideal client, because how you said the majority of couples are looking on their mobile devices to plan their weddings. But if you know that your ideal client is a desktop user, then that's, do you know what I mean? You've got to bear that end user in mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's like us, for example, for the wedding side of things, then obviously it's usually, we're looking towards people who are using their mobiles. Like I said, that 92% of couples actually using mobiles. But then when it comes to the web design side of things, typically if you're looking for a website designer, you're looking on a desktop because you want to see what it's actually going to look like, And
we have this as well, because we are working with suppliers who mostly, when they're looking for our services or they want to look at our content, or if you're going to sit and do a course from start to finish, you're not normally doing that from your mobile phone. So we're kind of like in this, but you probably are looking at our website from your mobile, but then when it comes to sitting and doing an hour of courses or anything like that, you get your desktop out or your laptop out. Of course, you're going to know stuff about kind of tech side. I'm asking this personally because I'm always like, it looks so tiny. What's a good text size? Kind of. Would you say? Because I think it all just looks so little, and you kind of
me too. Yeah.
Desktop phone.
Personally, I use Squarespace. I don't know what sort of the font options are in other platforms as a standard, but I usually use between 16 and 18 point text size. It is sort of, it's readable. It's not too big and bold, but it's also not that tiny that you've got to sort of
you've got to get your magnifying glass out, your monocle.
Usability, and this is kind of the point I'm kind of getting at, is that Google looks at this as well, doesn't it? Like how long are people on your site for? How easy is it for them to find the content? But and I don't know about you two, and maybe I'm ambition to a rather not so nice character trait that I have, but if I can't find a website easy to use, I'm off.
Oh, yeah. Same.
If I can't find what I want on your website within a couple of clicks, I'll have a look at the next one.
Yeah, And that kind of inbuilt into us, kind of like psychology wise and everything, and maybe some kind of social media with kind of that generation that's social media didn't exist, and we've grown up with the birth of kind of social media. Kind of that instant, we're used to kind of getting things so instantly now, whereas I do say to my children quite a lot, I used to have to look in a book if I wanted to find this out, you know. My son just says to me all the time, he will Google what I say to him now to fact check it, and I'm like, oh my
I love that. Yes, sorry.
get away with this. Oh, the tooth fairy won't cut. And he's like Googling.
Oh no, we've had the same thing. Like our eldest likes sort of telling us about things that we were told were facts at school that are now no longer proven facts.
Yeah, like Pluto, not a planet.
Yeah. Like, you're ruining my life.
Yeah, like.
Well, now I'm interested to find out, Jay, like one of these facts.
I can't think of one off my head. We have some very.
I'm going to Google this now. I am Googling this after this podcast because I need to know.
Oh no, I don't want to know. I'm quite happy knowing the knowledge I know. Thank you very much.
Like you were saying, Kate, we are in this, like, in the world we live in now, we expect quick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like when I go on a website, although like I should know that it's not exactly the same as social media, but exactly what you're saying. If I can't find what I'm looking for in 2-3 clicks, or it's not easy to navigate or things like that, I'm like, I'm off. I can't do this.
Yeah. Another thing to sort of consider when it comes to sort of the SEO side of things as well, in terms of, you know, like you want things quick, is obviously your page load speed.
How do people get that quicker then? How do we improve that? People will be thinking, okay, right, yeah, I want it to be quick loading. What do they need to ensure to make sure that is quick loading?
This is something that obviously I have to sort of dig quite deep into, like obviously because do wedding photography on the other side of things. Obviously,
just how you upload your images, like JPEG, PNG, does that have an impact?
Really important, yeah. If you're using PNGs, those files are massive.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're beautiful, they're sharp, they're fantastic looking, but if you've got an entire gallery of wedding photos that are all uploaded in PNG, it's going to take about 6 months for your website to load, by which point the couple's off. You know,
they probably got married by the time it's loaded. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, they're off on the honeymoon already. So it's little things like you can, what they call compress your images. So it's not necessarily cropping them smaller, it's compressing the amount of data within that file. There's some free tools that you can find. If you just sort of do a quick, wait for it, Google search of image compression, you can find lots of free tools to help you do that. But back to the whole sort of page load speed and images combined, if you go to a website called gtmetrics.com, that'll do you can slap your URL, your website in there, and it'll do a little page speed test and audit your website. And it will give you sort of an A to whatever sort of ranking on various different factors. But it can also sort of pull up things like your images, and it will, if you go down sort of below your rankings, it sort of tells you all the different issues with your website in terms of like load speed. It also tells you if any of your images are too big, but it also offers you a compressed version to download.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Even does it for you. OMG. Writing that one down.
gtmetrics.com. It's a fantastic little free tool.
Okay, fab. Yeah, I think it is kind of people, maybe some suppliers are kind of thinking at home, okay, right, don't really need a website because I've got a website, I don't really need to kind of invest too much in the SEO side because I'm also on Instagram or TikTok, or I might have a good following over on TikTok or whatever it is, wherever they're kind of focusing their main bulk of their content creation or their efforts in their business. And we've all got places that we do it. We've all got kind of our favorites that we find really natural and easy, and some of the others that we don't.
Yeah.
but it is still so important, isn't it, for to have a website?
Yeah, generally speaking, like, so obviously, you know, I'm a wedding supplier myself. I find that the people who generally want to sort of nickel and dime you, I find those on Facebook, for example. You know, they want the lowest price possible. You know, the mid-range clients, I might find them on Instagram. But generally speaking, if there's a high price tag associated to something, they're coming through Google, and they're coming through Google to my website.
I think
Sure.
Even if you're a supplier that's kind of lower range, budget range, and that's your niche and that's what you want to go for, and no judgment whatsoever. Yeah. I had a really successful business niching down to kind of low to mid-range wedding dresses, six-figure business, and no judgment. Whatever your niche is for your business is where you want to focus kind of your efforts and your time. However, what I know to be true and what I kind of find is there is unfortunately some mistrust some of the time in the wedding industry. You know, we pass over, and think of it from a client's point of view. They book you and pass over their money. Let's say you're a photographer, very early on in the process. And we've also had a kind of a shift in people's behavior because of the pandemic. You know, some businesses unfortunately haven't made it through the pandemic. Some people have had to change their wedding dates 4, 5, 6 times. And this trust thing, whatever we're kind of in, but even more so I think for the wedding industry, like, you know, when I go and buy a car, I want to know that the engine's working, and I want to know that it's been serviced, and, you know, it's got a full service history and all of that sort of stuff. I don't go into that much detail when I'm thinking about what I have for dinner tonight, but I kind of want to know that their food's been cooked nicely and, you know, been prepared nicely or anything like that. And you will find that people are actually, maybe they find you on Facebook, maybe they talk to you at a wedding fair, but at some point now I'd imagine that they're looking at your website.
Yeah. Generally speaking, sort of as part of like a broader marketing strategy, we, you know, as suppliers, a lot of people tend to funnel people from social media to the website. You know, when it comes to social media, you're essentially, you know, I mean, you guys know there's certain things that you can do to sort of get ahead of social media, you know, and be seen by more people. You know, it's essentially like, you know, SEO for social media.
Yeah. And it's really big. So
at the same time, like, you kind of slave to that algorithm in a sense. Whereas your website is your own little ecosystem. And like you sort of said about sort of that element of trust when it comes to sort of people laying out money, you know, for your goods and services. Like personally, I would look for somebody that has a website. I would look for somebody that I can see is real, and I can verify that they are who they are.
Me too, 100%.
Me too.
I research and you know, whatever kind of budget I'm at, whether I go on holiday, I look at all the TripAdvisor reviews before I kind of do anything. But especially, you know, I was a bride, I got married a long time ago now. Lots of research went into that thing, because it's a funny feeling, like, to pass out money and then not
get anything in return immediately.
So then not to know, okay, are you going to show up? There is an element of trust in that that system, isn't there, where you've booked, you then may have to pay 2 weeks before the wedding or a month before the wedding or whatever it is. And I'm going through it now. I'm booking for a wedding anniversary party in a few weeks. I'm kind of organising that, and I've researched the heck out of the people, because it's in an area that and even though these people have come from our kind of community, I've definitely still researched the heck out of everybody, because there's pressure on a wedding, isn't there? There's not, or on whoever's organising the wedding, you know, turning up, there's guests there, and you just want everything to kind of go smoothly. So your couples will at some point be heading over to your website.
100%, yeah.
With the kind of SEO element of it, I guess it's kind of, you know, like social media, it's like very instant, quick kind of content. It lapses quite quickly though, so that's why we constantly have to keep kind of updating on social media, making sure that we're on Instagram stories, wherever it is that you've chosen. Google.
One thing also, sorry, Kate, go on.
No, go on. I was going to say Google's a little bit more longer game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of it's planning ahead. So typically speaking, if I was to sort of put the full foundations of SEO work in for somebody on their website, I typically start looking for results. Well, I start looking immediately, but you generally start seeing them around the 3 to sort of 6 month mark. It all depends on sort of how competitive their particular market is or their keywords are. Some are easier than others. So like I said previously, you know, I ranked #1 for wedding photographers of my type in my area, in our particular town. Problem is, you know, I quickly found out nobody searches for that. So it's all right being sort of king of the hill #1 for, you know, little small backwater town. But a lot more people were searching for, you know, the county, the wider area. So that's what you work towards. It's all sort of baby steps, but it does take time.
Yeah, but then I suppose as well with the things that take time, like the reward is a little bit better. Like if you know this coveted spot of #1 of Google, it doesn't even need to be #1 of Google, isn't it? Is it not like the top 4? Is that...
Yeah, generally speaking, I think numbers wise. If you're on the first page of Google for a particular search term, those websites receive 70% of traffic. You know, like if you're on page 2 or 3, you might as well not exist as far as
I'll only go to page 2 if I'm looking for something incredibly specific that I can't, and I've not found it kind of on that first kind of page. And you have to kind of put your personal head on a little bit rather than your business head and think, you know, how do I search Google? Rather than thinking of it like exactly what you said in terms of you were ranking for your town, but actually then you kind of discovered, like when I go out for a meal, I'll kind of search like best restaurants in whatever area. That's what I'm searching for that. I might not be particularly searching for like a particular cuisine, or depending what I fancy that night. Yes, potentially I would be like best Indian restaurants in a particular area. It's about kind of thinking, how do I use Google personally? Because people aren't so business minded, and I get this actually when I chat to other people and I say, oh, just go on Google and go and search that for me, and they're like, I can't find it. What do I write? Because I can get really specific and think like that because I keywords and stuff like that I might want on websites. I can find things quite quickly on Google.
Yeah, you can, can't you?
But I actually go on. Sorry, doesn't that go to show that actually the more specific you are in terms of what your keywords are, the quicker you'll kind of go up the
it's like anything. Sort of if you sort of niche down, it's more sort of specialist. So there's less people sort of jostling for those top spots. But you can structure things in a variety of different ways. But it also, like you said about sort of long-term strategy and things, it all sort of informs a wider marketing strategy. So if you wanted to rank for something very specific, like I said, you can take steps on like your homepage or your particular services pages, but then you've also got blogging, but then you can also sort of widen that net to like you guys do with social media. So you know you can sort of, it's like a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah, I always thought of it like, right, okay, I'm going to get my social media strategy in place. Other people might do it a different way, but this is kind of how I did it. Maybe you did it the other way around, Jay, actually, just to balance. Get my social media strategy in place, really want a good foundations for that, get into kind of a flow as to what I'm doing. And then I would kind of ask, as part of my market research, where did you find us? Facebook, Instagram, Facebook. That would kind of come. And then I would always just say, right, imagine now if I could get that much traffic from Google as well. So,
yeah,
or better quality leads from Google perhaps, because then I would look at it a little bit more detail, like how much is that bride spending with us compared to this bride. But that it depends at what level of your business you're at, as opposed to how much data you kind of want to look into things. It's been really great to kind of get these kind of little quick tips that people can kind of put into business just to kind of help. And it's not a quick fix at all, like anything worthwhile in business.
It's a long game.
It is a long game. You know, you don't want to be in business for kind of quick fixes, quick wins, sticky plastering over things, because it ends up coming back and you need to put the work in anyway, don't you? I say this from experience, like.
In terms of sort of quick tips, like I said, you know, before, like Google My Business, if you are doing like on-page SEO, like I said, you know, your H1 titles and like your sort of copy text, your main body text, but it's sort of, you're solving a problem. You know, you're essentially you're solving a problem for your potential customer, if you know what I mean. So, you know, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? Are you good at it? How much is it? You're basically sort of answering questions. And like I said, if you write naturally, that's a big one.
Don't be like, what problem do I solve for my couple?
I
would just think, well, as a client, I would think, this is a bit odd.
No, but it's the same as sort of sales in general. You know, you are essentially you are solving a problem, or you know, you're providing the solution to what it is.
And you might be at home thinking, oh, you know, I'm a wedding celebrant, I don't solve a problem for somebody. But yes, you do. Like you do. You're the solution to somebody that doesn't want a traditional ceremony or wants to personalize their ceremony, and that is the problem that you solve. It's not like, oh, I don't solve a problem because you know we don't work in the NHS, or we don't have, like, you know, we're not solving like big world problems that are out there. That's not what we're saying, but we're solving something that our client is searching for. And every wedding supplier,
everyone,
every business, everyone everywhere. How do people find out a little bit more? So if they want to kind of deep dive into SEO a little bit more, I know you were saying it takes about 3 months. So if people kind of started with this now, they could start to expect to see results kind of August. Maybe people are going to be thinking, okay, when wedding season kind of finishes, this is the time I'm going to really focus on this, so that I can capture those kind of Jan-Feb engagements that we know are coming from kind of Christmas onwards. How do they kind of get a little bit more? I know that you've got a lovely little guide coming out. Tell us a little bit about that.
Basically it's going to be 7 steps or 7 days to better SEO for wedding professionals. So it's basically geared specifically towards the wedding industry. It's going to be tasks that can be carried out on a daily basis, sort of over 7 days. Obviously, you might not have the time to dedicate 7 whole days to this, but you could spread it out over a further period of time. And it's just a basic sort of overview of some simple steps that you can take without it being too technical, without it being too jargon heavy, that you can do to improve your SEO, basically. I am aware, like as a sort of, as a service and whatnot, and as a profession, SEO is a very technically heavy subject. It's a boring subject, it's quite a dry subject, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
We all like money. Look at it like that. Like we all like business, we all like money. We're all businesses. So yes, it can be technical. You know, but if you're in a position where you are wanting to implement the SEO, or you're not at a stage where you want to hire somebody, or you think, you know, I can dedicate a bit of time to this. This is perfect for people, isn't it? And then if they want to go on and work with somebody like you, Jay, on their SEO, or I know that you build websites as well, it's kind of that bit in the middle. I've definitely been a supplier. I've been both. I've kind of evolved from that type before, where I've been like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to dedicate the time. I'm going to learn this. I'm really, and that jargon-free stuff I really need. Roxy knows this as well. Roxy's been reading an SEO book, haven't you, Roxy? And
it's it's just too over my head. It's not written in a way that I respond to very well. Whereas actually, I need a bit of this guide, Jay, because like talking to you, Jay, and then like we've done like a couple of other SEO things. When it's kind of no jargon, broken down, I've actually learned things, and that surprised me because I feel like it's so over my head. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. It just takes a little bit of time. That's all. Just keep chipping away.
It's good as well that it's kind of a workbook style, because you can kind of action that. So you can kind of write, this is what I've got to do today. I can action that, and actually, we're kind of big on motion and action. You've learned something and actioned it, and then you're working towards that result as well. It's not just knowledge that's going to stay in your head for forever with nothing getting done. So I think it's really going to help.
Yeah, so like it's not so in depth that it gets really sort of into the weeds with the technical side of things. It's quite sort of simple, visual. Way of learning and following along. It's just nobody wants to sort of watch a video with me talking over it, you know. So we decided that a workbook that you can either have as a PDF or you can print out. You can literally sit there and go through it, check things off. You know, it's in everyday language, nice simple steps. So
I like that it's in normal person language and not SEO language. Normal person.
Yeah, it's just otherwise, you know, obviously if I put a lot of technical terms in there, I'd have to put a glossary at the end, which would probably double its size. And you spend more time reading the glossary and flipping back to the glossary for the terms than you would actually following the steps.
I think as well that you really well thought out and really great. And in terms of kind of that wedding industry element as well, nobody's got to go away and kind of think, okay, how could this work for the wedding industry? And we found this with what we do when we write things, and we're obviously coaches. You know, have been asked by other people, that's not our niche, we won't do it. That's not the direction we want to go in. We do that as well. Like we break it down so that it is kind of, nobody has to go away and think, oh, how can I work this for my business? I'm a florist, or how can I work this for my business?
Yeah. How does this apply to me? You know, that's one of the reasons why, you know, obviously, you know, I've got experience in the wedding industry, but we wanted to make it wedding industry specific. So, you know, it talks in the language that wedding suppliers understand, and it solves any issues that they have, and basically it just sort of goes through, and it's literally targeted specifically for the wedding industry. Because they're the people who we want to help.
Jay, obviously if people want to find out a little bit more about you, they can kind of head over to your like SEO services, which is wedding engagement design, isn't it? So people can kind of head over there. We'll pop a link into the show notes for that workbook so people can kind of download that. If SEO is something that you want to kind of implement yourself, it's definitely worth saying. I know you've mentioned it a couple of times as well, but you do SEO services for the wedding industry, don't you? So if you're somebody at the level where maybe you don't have time for it, or you want to free up some headspace, or you just want to kind of take it off your to-do list, I know that you offer those sorts of services as well. And also a template service for the wedding industry as well, don't you? So people who are sitting thinking, okay, I need a new website, or I want to make my website look a little bit fancier, you kind of do that as well. And that's all under your wedding engagement design business. We'll pop a link into the show notes so people can find you and kind of talk to you a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. Basically sort of obviously working in the wedding industry ourselves, you know, familiar with the sort of an essential sort of formula of needs and wants of people that sort of are looking to sort of build websites. But having done it for many, many years myself, we now sort of sell templates for specific areas of the wedding industry that are designed to meet the particular needs of those particular parts of the industry. So, you know, say for example, you know, wedding photographers is very sort of gallery heavy, image heavy.
You've got a bridal shop one. I saw that yesterday. Obviously, coming from bridal background, I'm like, that's pretty.
Yeah, you know, so that one's designed to sort of show off, you know, like the gallery of products and the range of dresses and accessories that you
It's
might
definitely
want.
worth saying, Jay, as well, because I know kind of pain point for some people who are thinking about maybe hiring somebody to do their website is that they still want control over their website. I've hired people in the past and then really struggle to kind of understand the back end of the website, or I want to upload a blog and I have to wait for somebody to kind of upload that for me, or I need images. You've already thought about all of that, haven't you? Like, you've got a service, you've got two kind of services where you kind of pass it over and they can kind of run it, or they can kind of have you on board for kind of support over a period of
time. So basically everybody gets sort of a certain level of support. But if you're sort of confident, you're quite sort of technically capable and stuff like that, then obviously you buy a template, you just pop your photos, you pop your text in, you pop your email address and domain and whatnot. But if you're not very sort of technically savvy, then we do offer like a full setup option where you get a bit more extra support from us as well. And we also offer custom websites. So if your business doesn't sort of fall within the parameters of a template, or you think, actually, I don't want a template, I want something that is specifically designed for me, my business, and that meets my needs specifically, then we offer that too. But we treat each business that we deal with, the same kind of care and attention that we would our own. Obviously
we've worked with you on a kind of professional level, haven't we? Like, we know honestly, you get yourself, you get your partner Amy,
you guys are great, we love you.
I know your kids, like, our kids.
Yeah.
But it's a good relationship to have, and it's good to know people. And I always think this in terms of people that understand the industry as well. There's no time, you don't have to sit there as a business supplier and say, this is what I need, it's me, my clients are getting engaged at certain periods of the year, I have certain quiet periods in the year. Like, we get that, we all work in the wedding industry, we get it, we live, we breathe it, we've done it for years. Jay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jay.
We've learned stuff, and actually, like, SEO is a topic that we look over quite a lot because we work in marketing, and actually it just goes to show there's so much always to learn. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode, guys.
We will. Thank you. Take care. Bye.